Alright. That should about be that. Hey guys, hey, it's me, it's Tech. It's Tech Turncoat. How you guys doing? This is purely a recording. Due to noticing that these do a little bit better when they're just full recordings rather than the streams. I'm going to try and stick to doing at least just the visual novel stuff, like Witch of the Holy Night and similar, future similar, like this, because one, it's a little bit more similar to how it was doing Fate Stay Night and all that stuff. And like I said earlier, it tends to do just a little bit better, which I'm not really in it. Okay. It feels weird to say, I'm doing this because it does a little bit better, and then follow it up with, I don't really care about the numbers though. I don't really care about the numbers. It does make me feel good though. I'm gonna go flat out and say that it does make me feel good to see that there are people enjoying my stuff. So, that's how this is going to be for the foreseeable future. Certain games will still be live, like what's it called? I just played it yesterday. Lobotomy Corp and Hollow Knight, and any future games that are like would be nice to have a chat along with me. But for stuff like the visual novels and maybe even similar, I think it's nice to just have this. So it's all the attention is on the story and how that's the presentation and all that stuff, and it's just me reading to you guys. It's fun. It's fun this way, I think. But without further ado, and with less urgency, I guess, let's start. I'll just say continue because I didn't look at it. Oh. Is it actually called Witch of the Holy Night? Oh, shit. Fascinating. Yeah, Witch on the Holy Night 1. Aoko had not hung up, but the line remained silent. Shit, that's right. I was like, oh man, glad all that crazy business is behind us and Alice is safe now. I totally forgot Aoko was in danger too. Where's the... There. Alice set down the receiver quickly. Oh, sorry. Alice set down the receiver, quickly put on her mantle, and made for the entrance, moving her injured body by sheer willpower alone. Really? Oh, wait, I could turn my mouse off. Nope. Whatever. Along the way, she paused, turned to Soujyuro, and looked directly at him.
Aoko に何かあったんだな。
Aoko's in trouble, isn't she? Alice hesitated for a moment, before pushing aside her anxiety and grabbing his hand.
しずきくん、一緒に来て。
Suzuki, come with me.
待ってくれ。一緒にってどこに？
Wait, where are we going?
相田教会まで。青子の方は営利神父にお願いするしかないから。
Father is Shimp? Is that right? To aid a church, we need to ask Father Airy for help.
相
Airy
田
for
教
help.
会って病院の横にある。
I aid a church. That's next to the hospital, isn't it?
そう。知っているのなら問題ないわね。説明する手間も省けたわ。
Good. You know it. It'll save me time in explaining it. It'll save me time in explaining it. Alice left the mansion and made her way down the three-lined path. She was clearly determined, but the look in her eyes betrayed her pain.
アリス、連絡をするなら電話は？
Wait, Alice, shouldn't we, call ahead or something? Soujyuro asked Alice, whose grip on his hand was light, but unyielding.
教会の人にならもう知らせた。
The church already knows.
もしかして病院のことを言っているなら、それこそ無駄よ。ハイヤーなんて言うけど、 空を飛ぶわけでもないし、今は助けを呼ぶより助けに行かないと間に合わない。
If you're talking about the hospital, no need. It's quicker for us to go and help than call for a car. They can't fly. Alice had thought of everything. She turned to the mansion and lightly snapped her fingers. In response, a window opened and countless starlings took flight.
1番隊は索敵、2番隊と3番隊は現場に向かって応急処置を。在庫切れになってもいいわ。
Group 1 search for the enemy. Groups 2 and 3 proceed to the scene and administer first aid. Haste is paramount.
まだ生きているなら、青子の心臓を止めないで。
If Aoko is still alive, do not let her heart stop. Alice commanded the birds firmly.
しずきくんは裏庭から青子の自転車を持ってきて。
Suzuki, fetch Aoko's bicycle from the rear courtyard. Soujyuro let slip his discomfort at the thought of that thing. The custom-made red bicycle. When he was cleaning the incinerator, Aoko had verbally assaulted him for nearly scratching it.
いいけど、どうするつもりなんだ、アリスは。
Okay, but what's the plan?
ここにいるより教会にいた方がしずきくんは安全よ。それに私も急がないといけない。
You are much safer at the... Nope.
二人乗りできる。
You are much safer at the church than here, and I need to hurry. Can you take us both, Suzuki? While Soujyuro had seen people riding tandem, he was confident he could imitate them, but he still wasn't quite certain that he could trust a bicycle with his life. Moreover, its frame was so light, he was unsure if it would support both of their weights.
二人乗りってことは、アリスが後ろに乗るのか？
Wait, you mean you want to ride on the back?
できないならいいわ。
If it's too much, then I don't need your help. Alice turned away as if to snub him, then began walking. Unfortunately for Soujyuro, he was now on her bad side.
いや、そういう意味じゃないんだ。アリスとはイメージが合わなかったから。
Hey, don't get me wrong. It's just I never expected you to ask me to do something like that. Ignoring his pleas, she continued briskly towards the woods. There was no way she was going to ride the bike now. Sensing her stubborn streak, he desperately called out to her.
待った、今のはこっちが悪かった。すぐに持ってくるから、怒るのはつけにしておいてくれ。
I take it back. I'm sorry. I'll go get it right now. You can even take your anger out on me later. Alice stopped. As soon as he saw her stop, he hurried to the rear courtyard, grabbed the key from where it was hanging, and used it to unlock Aoko's bicycle. By the time Soujyuro brought it back to the front of the mansion, Alice was continuing towards the
アリスの
forest.
性格、なんとなくつかめてきたな。
I think I finally have you figured out, Alice. Muttering to himself, he straddled the bike. He rested his foot on a pedal. It felt light, but sturdy. Confident the bike could support his weight and Alice's, he began pedaling.
アリス！
Alice! She turned as he called out to her, before shooting him a piercing glare.
行こう。後ろの荷台に乗ってくれ。でもクッションがないから痛いと思う。辛かったら言ってくれ。止めるから。
Come on, hop on the back. No cushion though, so it won't be a comfy ride. Let me know if it's too uncomfortable.
私は大丈夫よ。しずきくんが嫌じゃなければの話だけど。
I'll be fine. Worry about yourself. It hit the nail on the head. Alice definitely held a grudge over the smallest things.
そういうことなら問題ないよ。アリスが後ろにいてくれるのは嬉しい。それで、行き先は間教会でいいんだな。
If that's the issue, then there is no issue. I'm happy to give you a ride. We're going to Ida Church, right? Unabashed and undaunted, he plowed on. His tone seemed to ease Alice's mood. She nodded calmly and took a seat on the luggage rack above the rear tire.
手を回すけど、私が触れても平気。
I'm going to hold on to you now, okay? You don't mind me touching you, do you?
ん大丈夫だよ。体力があるのはさっき証明しただろ。
Why wouldn't I? Tougher than I look. Alice silently wrapped her arms around Soujyuro. Once she held on tightly enough, he gripped the handlebars.
よかった。
Good, he said quietly.
何が良かったの？
What's so good? Soujyuro turned to her, an ambiguous expression on his face, and then began pedaling vigorously. He let go of the brakes, and the bicycle hurtled down Shiro Inuzuka's steep incline. Shiro Inuzuka. Surprised by the sudden speed, Alice gasped and clutched Soujyuro tighter. She almost protested, but was stopped when she saw the serious expression on his face. Instead, she decided to tighten her grip. Under the night sky, a young girl had put her faith in a young boy. Faster than a roller coaster, the bicycle hurtled towards Misaki Station. Around the station, there was no sight of cars or people. While the town slept under its snowy blanket, two people were racing like the wind. While he pedaled, the boy said,
本当によかった。二人乗りが思ったより簡単で。
Whew. Riding tandem is way easier than I thought. But he was alone in this relief. It was their first bicycle ride together, and they spent it speeding down an empty highway. The boy's words were lost in the howling wind, fortunately. In spite of the late hour, there were still lights on at the church. Originally, the only light at this time of night came from the entrance to the sleepless hospital, ever vigilant and ready to receive patients. However, this was a quiet town with little nightlife. The hospital saw perhaps one emergency patient per night, however, and it was not equipped to handle tonight's sole patient. It was a little before 1 o'clock in the morning. Leaving the bicycle outside, the two headed into the church. With its snow-covered roof, the church looked like it was wearing a white hat that lit up the darkness. Close enough. In the entrance stood a tall shadow.
Kuonji-san.
Miss Kuonji. The man's voice was placid. Dressed in a long coat, he had been waiting for Alice.
エイリ神父、Aokoは？
Father Yeri, is Aoko...
ユイカが見ています。私が駆けつけた時には手遅れでした。
Eureka is tending to her now. By the time I got to the scene, there were others already.
青崎の家に伝令を願いたいのですが。
I would like to notify her family.
アオコはそれを望まないわ。それに、あちらも今は城に囚われているそうです。今夜の相手は、真っ先にアオコの祖父の動きを封じたようですから。
Aoko wouldn't want that. Besides, I believe they're trapped in the castle. Aoko seems to have tied down their grandfather too. The two exchanged pleasantries. Soujyuro did not move from the foot of the stairs.
おや、そちらは。
Oh? And who is this? Though father seemed calm, his words had an edge to them. As if to protect Soujyuro from his gaze, Alice stepped between them.
彼はアオコの使い魔。契約はまだなされていないけれど。
This is Aoko's familiar, though the contract hasn't been fulfilled yet.
使い魔ってアリス。
Familiar, Soujyuro was about to complain, but Alice shot him a fiery glare that all but said, just shut up and play along.
そうですか。そのような申告はありませんでしたが、届けが遅れたのは不問としましょう。
I see. This is the first I've heard of it. but I'll let it slide.
外部の魔術師と交戦中でしたからね。あなたたちはその撃退を最優先にした。ということで。
I mean, you are both in conflict with an outside mage after all. That should take priority. Alice nodded in thanks.
では通ります。彼の同行を許可しなさい。
I'll be going in now. I attempt to enter as well.
ご自由に。私はこれより朝廷に向かいます。管理者が変わるのなら、両教会への資料を用意しなければいけませんので。
He is most welcome. I will begin preparations for meditation. If a change of administrators is imminent, I have to prepare documents for both parties.
ああ。留守中はリツカに任せてありますから。
Ritsuko?
必要なものがあれば彼女に。
It's not the same, Ritsuko, but I do have to thank. I'm leaving things to Ritsuko in my absence, so send any questions her way. As if passing the baton, Father Ieri exited the church. Soujyuro took 2 full steps back to give him wide berth. Oh god, it's doing the thing. The priest had a dignified air about him. To put it bluntly, he was strikingly beautiful. Straight nose, glistening lips. Not a single imperfection in his mildly effeminate face. Only mildly effeminate? It's doing him a discredit. But that only went as far as his appearance. His manner lacked any hint of softness or grace. Just by looking at him, you could tell he was dependable, like tempered steel, despite being somewhat unapproachable. The priest disappeared silently into the night, the darkness of his coat overpowering the moonlight. In awe, Soujyuro watched him leave.
なんか仙人みたいな人だな。
He's like some kind of sage from the folk tales. In his own way, Soujyuro was expressing affection. For some reason, Father Ieri's distant tone made him feel nostalgic. Alice gave Soujyuro a deadly stare.
気を許さないで。彼は教会の人間よ。
Do not let your guard down. He is with the church.
私たちを監視する側だけど、今回は彼の手を借りるしかなかっただけ。
His job is to monitor us, but this time we had to ask him for his help.
許されるなら、真っ先に消えてほしい人間だから。
If it were allowed, I'd make him disappear off the face of the earth. Her curse ringing in the air, Alice placed her hand on the doors to the chapel. They were twice her height, and who knows how heavy. It didn't look like she could open them anytime soon. Soujyuro climbed the stairs 3 at a time and helped Alice push the towering doors inward. Dim light of the chapel brought with it the familiar scent of burning oil. The ecclesiastical interior was breathtaking. I know the word. The tall ceiling, stained glass windows on every wall. It all felt intended to illustrate the presence of the Holy Spirit within those chambers. Like the foyer in the Kwanji estate, there was not a single heater. Bitter cold made the chapel feel more severe.
あっちゃん、こっちよ。
Oh, this must be Ritsuko. Allie, over here. A gentle voice echoed through the chamber, incongruous to its surroundings. It was the voice of a woman.
リツカさん、奥。
Ritsuko, is that you? Alice made her way past the rows of pews towards the front altar. Soujyuro closed the large doors and hurried after.
早かったわね。これから迎えに行こうと思ったのに。
She looks kind of like, what's her name? Whatever. You got here fast. I was just thinking of coming to see you.
使える足があったから。 後ろの彼。
I had another pair of legs.
足って、あれ、あなた。
Legs? Oh, you mean him?
Oh.
Soujyuro showed himself, surprising the woman. They stared intensely at each other, wondering what the other was doing here.
知り合い？
Do you two know each other?
ああ、うん。まずいことに知り合い。
Yes, although I didn't expect to see him here.
宗十郎さん、引っ越したって話だけど、もしかしてあっちゃんのところに下宿してるの？
Oh, is she his neighbor? Interesting. Soujyuro, when you said you'd moved, you meant you're staying at, Ali's? Okay. Soujyuro nodded. Alice turned visibly sour at the unexpected development.
どういうこと？しずきくん、律香さんとはどういう関係？
What are you talking about, Vitsuka? How do you know each other?
関係って、そうね。
Well...
お魚屋さんでしょっちゅう割引してもらったり、
He always gave me a discount at the fish
荷
market.
物持ちを頼んでみたり、
Helped me with my bags, drank tea with me.
たまにお茶飲んだりする主婦の友みたいな。
He's like every housewife's best friend.
意味がわかりません。律香さん結婚していないでしょ。
That doesn't make any sense. You're not married, Ritsuka. Needless to say, Soujyuro was not a housewife's best friend, and all that suggested was, but there were more urgent matters at hand.
うわ、そこを突っ込むのか。あっちゃん、私にだけは一切妥協がないのはどうかと思うの。
Ouch. How'd you go there, huh? Can't stop anything by you, can I, Allie?
律香さんの場合、どこまで本気かわからないから。おかしなところは全部追求しておかないといけないだけよ。
Well, what do you expect? I never know when you're being serious, so I have to question every weird thing you say.
あら素敵。仲のいい姉妹みたいね、私たち。
Just look at us. We must have been separated at birth.
じゃあ、その信頼に応えて本当のこと言うと、彼とは町内会の顔見知りよ。スパイ行為とかそういうんじゃないし、そもそもそんな器用な人じゃないでしょ、宗十郎さんは。
Okay, I'll tell you the truth. I know him from the neighborhood association. He's not a spy or anything. Not that he could be. I mean, you know, just look at him.
本当？
Is this true? Alice stared straight at Soujyuro. I let him know she was mad at him for hiding this from her.
本当だ。魚屋でバイトしてる時に知り合った人だ。
Yeah? I know her from her part-time at the fish market.
前に親切にしてもらったんで、お礼にイワシを一匹サービスしたら、それ以来ごひいきに。
She was nice to me, so I gave her a free sardine to persuade her to come back.
そうそう。商店街で買い物してれば、嫌でも宗十郎さんとは顔見知りになるわ。
Exactly. Everybody who shops downtown knows Soujyuro.
あ
Kiara.
っちゃ
Her
んも
name
怒
was
るぐらいな
Kiara.
ら買い物に来ればいいのに。密かな商店街のアイドルです。
If it bothers you so much, Allie, go see for yourself. He's the secret stud of the shopping district. Now, she said idol, but I think I like secret stud of the shopping district a little bit better.
アイドルとは人気者という意味で、値切りやすいかもって意味じゃないような。
I don't know what he's going on about. She means unpopular, not that my prices are easy to hammer down like some nail on the wall. His apparent popularity would have been questioned another time, would have to be questioned another time. Collecting herself, Alice focused on the door stud. Collecting herself, Alice focused on the door of the recesses of the church.
律香さんの事情は知りませんが、彼は青子の連れです。
I don't know what's going on with you, Vitsuka, but he's with Aoko now.
その他に説明はいりますか？
The explanation will have to wait.
ああ、やっぱりそういうことなのね。ま、言いたいこと。 え
Oop,
了
shit.
解したわ。他ならぬあっちゃんの頼みだし、特殊な例だけど彼はこちらで保護しましょう。
It all makes sense now. So much to say, so little time. But we can get to that later. Fine. For Allie, we'll make an exception and offer him our protection. Alice nodded and began walking to the door.
アリス、
Alice?
ダメよ、宗十郎さん。
Stay, Soujyuro. As Soujyuro was about to follow Alice, Okay. Ritsuka stepped
あ
in
な
his
た
way.
は行ってはいけません。彼女たちに任せなさい。
You need to stay here. Leave this to the girls. She asserted bluntly. Meanwhile, Alice had reached the door and entered further into the chapel.
行ってはいけないって。どうして？
But why?
あなたのためよ。青子の容体は普通の人が見ていいものじゃない。気分を悪くするだけ。
It's for your own good. No normal person should see Aoko in the state she's in. It'd be too much for you.
それとも嫌な思いをしてもいいくらい青子が心配なのかしら。
Unless, of course, you're so worried about her you don't care about that? Soujyuro wasn't able to give an immediate answer. And it finally hit him just how bad a state Aoko must be in. Based on Alice's condition when he found her, he intuited that Aoko's interviews might even be worse. He tried to imagine her expression in that state, but couldn't.
青崎相手に心配なんかしません。
I never worry about Aozaki. Literally. He had never been worried about her before. Not truly.
でも会いに行くのね。
I can't stop you, can I?
はい。
No. He answered her reflexively. Ritsuka sighed at the boy's naivete, but nonetheless stepped aside.
どうぞ行ってらっしゃい。
Go on then.
アリスさんが使ったドアから入って4番目の部屋よ。
Through the door Alice used. Fourth room in.
今一番取り込んでる頃だからゆいちゃんの邪魔だけはしないように。
Things are critical right now, so stay out of Yui's way. Soujyuro thanked her and went after Alice, leaving Ritsuka Suse. I'm gonna say that's how it's pronounced. The self-proclaimed everybody's friendly neighbor alone.
さてゆいかあたりなら止めるんでしょうけど、ま、私は宗十郎さんの味方だし、傷つく男の子とか大好物だし。
You could probably stop him, but someone's gonna be in Sojuro's corner. I have a soft spot for the broken boys.
少々スパルタと自覚しておりますが、これも親切な姉心と思って宗十郎さんには後悔していただきましょう。
I know I'm playing rough with him, but it's for his own good. I say let him learn to regret. She spoke with force, but her words echoed aimlessly around the chapel. With a sigh, she shrugged her shoulders and made the sign of the cross in a rather unpious manner. The sound of Sojuro's footsteps grew fainter. His lack of hesitation had left a pain in her heart. And not because he did not look back at her, but because he was choosing to ignore the primal fear inside him. An elderly man once said, "An animal's death and a human's are two different things. You may think they're the same, but they differ to their core. Our heads have known the difference since the dawn of man. An animal's corpse, be it a pig's or a deer's, is different. If the swing of an axe or a machete is violent, then so must a human corpse be. Therefore, before you see one with your eyes, you should at least understand it with your ears. Listen closely, Soujyuro. When a person dies, blood flows like a crimson river. It's too much to bear." Perhaps because he was not used to the stone path beneath his feet, Sojuro's mind wandered back to the words he'd heard as a child. The instant he opened the door, there was a palpable change in the air. The room was small, with only a simple bed and a small wooden dresser. There on the bed, was lying on her side. Tending to her was the woman he'd just seen in the chapel, Ritska. No, she only looked a lot like her. Her eyes were closed and her garments covered in blood. He had met her maybe once before. Yuika Suse, a nun at the church. She was doing something to her. Yuika held a pair of scissors and some thread. Her hands moved delicately yet quickly, as though playing an organ. Her movements were precise, as if flawlessly reading sheet music. One by one, the supply of bandages diminished. Bandages recently applied to the wounds were quickly replaced with fresh ones. Gauze was placed everywhere to try and cope with the amount of blood. Once white cloth was now dyed red and discarded. Dressings scattered around the floor resembled roses. In a wilted rose garden, the nun played her organ. The scene looked like unlike any reality Soujyuro knew. It was clear why the air had changed. There was a savage odor in the room. Even though he was experiencing it for the first time, he knew what it was. The smell burned his lungs. He couldn't bring himself to look at the bed. Fighting his feelings, his eyes refused to move there. He noticed Alice next to the bed. Ever expressionless, she looked like a stacked shoe next to a grave. Except she was trembling, ever so slightly. It could have been from fear, anxiety, rage, or a combination of the three. Before her lay a life on the verge of death. But whose life? It was difficult to tell with only a glance. Some sort of puppet covered in bandages, perhaps? Her hair should be beautiful, but it fell flat, disheveled. Despite her short breaths, her chest convulsed. Up, down. Up, down. Facetious though the thought was, Soujyuro recalled the rodeo machine on the roof of the department store. Painkillers and anesthesia could not have been working. New bandages were soaked crimson in seconds. Her fingernails bit into the sheets. Her face twisted in agony. Anesthesia would not be enough, so if she was still alive, she must be conscious too. It worried him that no one seemed concerned about this. At this stage, she would surely lose her mind before her life. In short, the boy never wanted to see anything like this ever again. Bed sheets should be white, not red. With every blink, the color deepened. Soujyuro was finally forced to accept that the bleeding mess in the center of it was her. He felt the blood surge in his veins. The squeaking of the bed, the snip of the scissors, the gasps of agony. It all faded. All he could hear was his own pounding heartbeat. The smell of the blood she choked up sent a wave of nausea through him. His knees abandoned him. and it was perfectly understandable. His brain had to shut down consciousness off to protect itself. The mind could only take so much reality. He would give anything to never see something like that again.
Soka. Aoko-chan は全部わかっているんだね。
Silly me. You know everything, don't you,
自分だけ
Aoko?
のことじゃなくて、
Not just about
こ
you.
の後に起きることも、何
But
が
what
残
happened?
って
Nope.
何が残らないのかも、全部まっすぐに受け止めている。
But what happens after this, too? What survives? What won't? You can see it all.
それでも自分であり続けられるということは、とても強いことなんだよ。
And through it all, you never lose sight of who you are. You're so strong. And on she went. I kind of liked her smile, but she just had to go and say one thing I wish she hadn't. The last day of middle school seems so long ago. As the ephemeral cherry blossoms, take two. As the ephemeral cherry blossom petals danced around, my little dream was crushed. I'd never really considered myself strong. At least until I began remembering those words from time to time.
青崎は分かってると思ってた。
I thought you of all people would understand,
いや、
Ozaki.
きっと分かってるんだな。だから、そこが強いんだろうね。
I mean, of course you do. That's what makes you strong. And lately, an idiot who said things like that had appeared in my life. I always knew I judged people more harshly than those around me. But to have someone I'd only known for a few days point that out was like a stab in the chest. Not only that, the words sounded so similar they made me so angry I couldn't see straight. Only him and one other person have ever said anything like that to me. Then again, I suppose my sister said the same without actually saying it. You're different from us. But me being me, I took it as a curse rather than a compliment. My actions, my choices, my morals, all the good and bad I've done. When all said and done, am I really any better than anyone else? Of course I am. I'll never sacrifice myself for those around me. They just had to call me strong, true to myself, in spite of how alone, stubborn, and ridiculous I know I can be. When I was younger, it only confused me. I mean, I don't know any other way. I am who I am. And that's all that I am. Frustrating fact is I simply don't have the courage to give up. So why? Why do I get treated special for doing what comes naturally? Sunlight stirred her. Maybe it was the pain from having her whole body held together by arcane threads. But Aoko felt like she had had a silly dream. She gulped air through her painful, parched throat. Gray rays of light shone through the small window, bringing her back to reality. I feel itchy. Unable to bear it, Aoko attempted to roll over. Except she could only move her right arm. She tried lifting her arm, couldn't feel anything past her elbow. Once she stopped concentrating on her bandaged arm, it fell to the bed like a stone. Okay. Aoko took in her surroundings, moving only her eyes. Evidently, she'd been asleep in this bed. Unable to feel certain parts of her body, she felt like a robot. The room was tiny and undecorated. It was like an apartment without a tenant. Judging by the good repair, she guessed that she was in Aida Church. Outside, it seemed closer to noon than morning. Clouds filled the sky, as usual, dulling the sun's rays. Idly, she thought it could be enough to melt the snow outside. And finally, she noticed the figure of a girl. Next to her bed, Alice Kwanji was sitting in a chair, unmoving.
おはよう、アリス。
Good morning, Alice. She called out to her, all too casually. It was more difficult to talk than she thought. Alice was her typical stoic self, although Aoko did notice a glimpse of concern in her eyes.
寝てないんでしょ。肌が荒れてる。
You haven't slept, Alice. I can tell from your poor complexion.
努力はしたわ。けど、瞳子さんに飲まされたものが解毒されるまで眠れそうにないの。
I tried, but I can't until the substance Toko made me swallow leaves my system.
半端な痛みは、こういう時に生ぬるいわね。
I suppose my lukewarm discomfort is a thought in a windstorm compared to what you're going through. What a strange turn of phrase they have her using here. Okay, yeah. Alice's uncharacteristically vulgar comment helped Aoko feel a little bit more like her usual self. She felt reassured in having a comrade in arms by her side instead of a concerned neighbor.
そう、アリスもやられたの。
So, she got you too.
状況は大体予想してるけど、一応細部を聞かせてくれない？
I can guess how it went, but fill me in on the details. Aoko remained horizontal as she spoke, with a cool tone. Despite Aoko's condition, Alice granted her request. After all, they'd known each other for 2 years. Alice knew exactly the kind of anesthesia Aoko Azaki needed right now. Alice Kwanji's battle with Togo Aozaki ended in the former's victory. Tame's troll was a special familiar even among fairy tale monsters. While lacking the incredible reality warping abilities of Flat Snark, its sheer mass, durability, and strength were second to none. Toko's rune magecraft was rendered completely ineffective by its stone armor. In all fairness, to Toko, most mages would not stand a chance against the bridge giant. The reason lay in the mystic's body. As a general law of magecraft, a mystic will lose to a stronger, older mystic. The history of the bridge giant dated back to well over 1,000 years. Its origins could be traced back to the 1st century when Britannia was conquered by the Romans. Conversely, despite having roots dating back to the Age of Gods, runes had, unfortunately, been lost to time. Rune magecraft was little more than an attempt to revive the use of a dead art. However, monsters from fairy tales like the troll were different. They lived on in the hands of Alice Kwanji. The magical world was vast, but one could probably count on one hand the number of magecraft that still functions after being chanted into existence a millennia ago, as Alice's ploys did. In contrast, Toko, the rune user, was only about 2 decades old. Carving a rune took only a moment. There was no way a quick spell would ever defeat the personification of London Bridge in Alice's homeland. That being said, a beast had appeared that surpassed even those from fairy tales. Beowulf, the Golden Beast. It seemed absurd to compare a small and relatively powerless wolf to a towering stone giant. The tamed troll's attacks were earthquaking. A direct hit from its 50-ton strikes would smash anything to paste, while a glancing blow would still create mincemeat. And yet, the beast would attack heads-on and torn right through it. The wolf's fur bristled, and the creature metamorphosed like liquid. It was a breathtaking display. The wolf howled at the moon as if in joy, and streaked forth like a bolt of golden light. In an instant, the duel was decided. The radiant spear of a wolf flew straight through the giant's chest, sank its teeth into its heart. The troll exploded. Chunks of stony muscle rained down. Luminous fur scattered in the wind. Two mystics dispersed without a trace, and returned from whence they came. The curtain fell on a battle straight out of mythology. There, amongst the rubble of the fairy tale monster, was the golden wolf, standing like a flame. What came after could barely be described as a battle. It was more like the slaughter of defeated pawns. The wolf leapt on Alice, disemboweling her with ease. Its claws cut through the protective wards on Alice's coat like a hot knife through butter. The golden wolf. This wolf, which understood human speech, could only be the magical creature known as the werewolf. Werewolves were the forest people of Western Europe, with origins far more ancient than the fabricated vampire legends of the continent. However, none were known to have golden coats. It was said that the most elite werewolf bloodlines boasted silver fur. Silver werewolves were pack leaders, and werewolves of that caliber were considered phantasmal rather than merely magical creatures. But a golden werewolf was superior even to that, and so transcended human knowledge. Alice Kwanji's ploys were among the ultimate mystics to have been created by humankind. Therefore, the golden wolf could only have been a mystic born of the planet. When a celestial body has been active for millions, even billions of years, occasionally a miraculous droplet of creation spills over into our current world. Oh, he's a type? This mystic had to be over 3,000 years old. A human mage? No. Any mage living in the current magical paradigm would be helpless against the golden wolf. Not even in theory would they stand a chance at defeating it. Which meant that this werewolf was Aoko and Alice's worst nightmare.
そう
See.
アリスがお手上げの相手だものね。私がどうにかできるはずもなかったわけだ。
If it was too much even for you, Alice, I never would have stood a chance.
でも要は魔術でなければいいのよね。
But that also means non-magical attacks should work on it, right?
テムズの動力は魔力だけど、テムズのパンチは純粋な衝撃でしょ。当たりさえすればぺしゃんこじゃないの。
Ames is powered by magical energy, but isn't its punch just raw force? One hit, it's game over.
残念だけど、
It's not that simple, unfortunately.
あれ、基本は狼の姿なだけで、状況によって形を変えるわ。テムズの腕を受け止めた時は、大猿みたいになっていたし。
His base form was that of a wolf, but he can transform to adapt to the situation. He took Tames's punch by turning into a giant ape-like thing.
機関銃やロケットで狙っても、かわされるか、体の硬い生き物に変化して防ぐんじゃないかしら。
Even if we used a machine gun or a rocket launcher, he could probably transform into something to defend himself.
地球上の生き物なら何にでも変われるってことか。
So he can turn into any living creature.
でもまあ、質量までは無理かな。
What about his mass? You can't change that, can
日
you?
本は2メートル台の生物のいいとこ取りってあたりで勘弁してほしいよね。
Why do you have to be well over 6 feet tall on top of all his other strengths?
ねえ、すごく関係ないけど、深海の生き物に変わられたらちょっと怖いと思わない？
Random question. What if he could turn into a sea creature? That'd be just awful. Aoko narrowed her eyes as she bemoaned this creature's existence. The conversation appears to have revived her fighting spirit. Once again, her eyes were focused on her thoughts were clear. Aoko was back to her usual self.
で、その後はアリス、うまく逃げられたの？
So, what happened next? Were you able to escape?
いいえ、私もあの狼にやられたわ。
That's an evocative way of putting that. No, the wolf had its way with me next. Alex explained how the wolf had pinned her to the ground. Incidentally, she kept the part about Soujyuro rather short. Alice herself was not entirely sure why she felt it was necessary to leave most of that information out.
アリスが相手をした後、休む間もなく私のところに来たわけか。
So Toko came straight up to me after fighting you.
初めから昨日で決着をつけるつもりだったんだ、兄貴。
That was your plan, sis. You wanted to end this all yesterday.
姉妹かな。ここぞって時のタイミングは一緒だったの忘れてた。
That was my mistake for forgetting. We always did have a habit of thinking the same thought at the same time.
切り札は見せたからには敵を殲滅しなくちゃいけない。
Once you reveal your hand to the enemy, you have to take them out.
姉貴は視点を残り2つにしておいて、自分の正体を告げてこっちの戦力を分けさせた。
She waited until she was down to the last 2 sigils to reveal herself and divide her strength.
その時点で奥の手を投入してくることは覚悟してたけど、まさか人狼なんて気は物とはね。
Well, she'd do something like that, but I never imagined she'd have a freaking werewolf with her. Aoko let out a heavy sigh. Alice nodded slightly in agreement.
それはそれとして、宗十郎がアリスを助けに行くなんてね。感謝しなくちゃいけないんだろうけど、バカな真似してくれたわ。
Anyway, I can't believe Soujyuro came to your rescue. I know I should be grateful, but he's such an idiot. God damn it. Stop it.
私が東子の立場なら、報復の可能性は一つ残らず排除する。
If I was in Toko's shoes, I'd be tying up loose ends.
私たちがどうにかなった後、猫の手首ひねるみたいに片付けられるわよ、あいつ。
After dealing with us, wiping him out should have been a piece of cake.
しずきくんならこちらで保護してもらってるけど。
Suzuki's under this church's protection now. Aoko's eyes widened.
どういう風の吹き回し？
What? Am I hearing things?
アリスがあいつの世話を焼くなんて。
You actually went out of your way to protect him?
だって放っておいたら青子が怒ると思って。
I was thinking of you. We wouldn't want you getting angry now, would we? Alice responded with her eyes closed. Aoko frowned in silent indignation, as if she wanted to protest where Alice got that idea from.
まあいいけど、それじゃあ今ここにいるんだ、宗十郎。姿が見えないけどどうしたの？
Well, whatever. He's here now, I assume. But where? Still unable to move her neck, she looked around as best she could.
彼なら気分を悪くして倒れたわ。今はエイリ神父の寝室を借りているけど。
He collapsed, so he's resting in Father Iari's bedroom. Aoko furrowed her brow and collapsed. So she was under the church's protection, but had Toko set the wheels in motion for his death?
何があったの？一体。
He saw your ass and passed out. What exactly happened to him? Alice paused for a moment before carefully answering the question.
それが
Well,
彼、あなたを見て嘔吐したの。
when he saw you, he vomited. She had decided to be blunt. Aoko was taken aback. For several seconds, dim sunlight leaked through the window. Once she had found her voice again, she muttered.
いいけど、ひどい侮辱よね、それって。
Whatever. Kind of rude, though. Perhaps amused or perhaps exhausted from staying up all night, Alice cracked a tiny giggle.
何よ。そんなにおかしい、アリス。
Oh? What's so funny?
さあ、どうかしらね。けど、しずきくんにも言い分はあるでしょう。
Oh,
今のあ
nothing.
なた
Nope.
とても見られたものじゃないわ。
Oh, nothing. Suzuki had his reasons, I'm sure. You were in a bad state, Aoko. Aoko appraised her physical state. She was dressed in a hospital gown. Bandages covered the majority of her body. Her right leg was in a plaster cast. Since she could move her right arm, she brought her bandaged fingers up to her throat.
そっか、思い出した。あのガキ、まず私の首元に噛みついたんだっけ。すごかったわよ。ち、あそこから好き勝手やられたもんだから、つい忘れてた。
Though now for a second, with my finger on the button still. Oh yeah, I remember now. A little shit bit my neck. It was crazy being torn to pieces like that. I never heard my neck snapping. Roast doesn't do the feeling justice. I even heard my neck snapping. Damn it, he played with me like some kind of chew toy. I almost wish I could forget. Aoko sounded upbeat, but the look in her eyes was anything but. She'd been torn to pieces, but her life had been mercifully spared. She hadn't been dismembered. She'd been beaten, and had her bronze broken. No. Magic crests containing the Aozaki's secret arts decorated her body. Even if her spine was broken, as long as her body was alive, the crests would piece it back together. Despite the crests easing the pain a little, she still hurt enough to want to kill that wolf 100 times over.
視点は全部壊された。
If all the sigils have been
こ
broken,
れで三崎市の霊脈はフリーってわけね。
Misaki City's ley lines are wide open.
全容を把握してるのはうちらだけの特権だったけど、東子は昔から知ってる以上、解析の手間もいらないと。
We thought we had the edge of having a big picture of the area, but if Toko's known for a while, then she's a step ahead of us.
真剣な話、所有権の書き換えまで何時間かかると思う？
Let's be real. How long do you think it'll take her to transfer dominion rights?
東子さんなら2日かからないでしょうね。
For Toko, it won't even take her 2 days.
支店の修復は土地そのものに任せるしかない。
She has no choice but to wait for the land itself to restore the sigils.
支店のプロテクトが治る頃にはこの町はもう彼女のものよ。
By the time the defenses are in working order again, this town will be as good as hers.
明日の夜明けとともに破産する我が身とはね。
So come tomorrow morning, I lose everything.
それで、アリスの方はどうなの？まだいける？
What about you, Alice? Any fight left in you?
思考魔術だけなら少しは。
I can manage a little bit of mental
あと
magecraft.
は小道具に頼ることになるでしょうね。
After that, it'd be relying on trinkets.
ああ、お話にならないか。
It's not gonna cut it. Aoko went silent again, staring straight at the ceiling. Alice knew all too well what that look meant.
それでもやるんでしょ、青子は。
You're still planning on fighting, aren't you, Aoko?
まあね、私、諦めるのってできないから。
Can you blame me? It's not like I can give up.
で、そういうアリスはどうなのよ。
What about you?
私は一度自分のものになったものは決して人には渡さない。
Once something is mine, it stays mine. Aoko muttered in agreement to Alice's terse response. Alice's intense attachment to her possessions was enough to make even Aoko shiver. When something is mine, it stays mine. Take it a step further, betrayal was an unforgivable sin. This personal motto was further proof of her uncompromising
オ
nature.
ッケー、決まりね。
Okay, that settles it then.
じゃ、悪いけどもう少し休ませて。今晩までには何とか動けるようにするから。
Get some rest. Come hell or high water, I'll be ready tonight. If the nun who stitched her back together had heard that, she would have fainted. Aoko could barely even eat in her current condition. Even so, Alice nodded and stood up. As Aoko's partner, she knew that once she had her mind was made up, she could trust her. She had to trust her. Silently, the girl in black began to take her leave. Oh. She stopped in front of the door, her hand to her mouth.
アリス
Alice? Aoko was curious, suspecting that Alice had something silly to say again. Quite the contrary. Instead of blushing, Alice furrowed her brow like she was thinking over a difficult riddle.
アリス
Alice? Hello? Aoko called out. But Alice remained with her back to her roommate.
なんで間に合ったのかしら。
How did he make it to me in time? She spoke as if the words had accidentally burst from her thoughts. Alice's question was about something Aoko couldn't possibly have guessed.
あの時もそう。
For two,
私たち始発で帰ってきたのに。
even though we took the first train back. She carried on mumbling at the door. Unable to find an answer, Alice gloomily put her hand to the doorknob.
言いたくないなら別にいいけど
If you don't want to say it, it's fine.
何がどうしたっていうのよアリス
But if you do, then spit it out already. Alice did not respond. She opened the door to leave and left a few words hanging in the air.
どうでもいいことだけど、
It might be
ゆ
nothing.
いかさんにはしずきくんは見えなかったそうよ。青子。
By the way, Yuika said she couldn't see Suzuki. The door closed with a thud.
ふんそりゃまた珍しい
That doesn't happen every day. Aoko mumbled to herself from her bed, seemingly slightly happier. Blind since birth, Yuika Suze saw the world through her other senses. She was especially sensitive to enemies or those who bore ill will, and typically viewed almost everyone as a threat, presumably because that was the easiest thing to pick up on. So when she said she couldn't see Soujyuro, that meant he was completely harmless. And then, that harmless individual decided to pay the small sick room a visit. Soujyuro looked like a stiff breeze could knock him over. It made Aoko wonder who the real patient
何
was.
しに来たのあんた
What do you want? Though Aoko could barely move, she was still able to give him the cold shoulder. His expression gaunt, Soujyuro grunted something or other before beginning to speak more coherently.
アリスが客間で眠ったから礼拝堂にいたんだけど、人が集まりだしたんで、こっちに逃げてきた。
Alice was sleeping in the guest room and I was in the chapel. People started coming in, so I came here.
あ礼拝の時間かクリスマスだってのによくやるわ
Must be time to worship. It is Christmas. It was indeed Christmas. The regular Mass was on Christmas Eve. The ones gathering in the chapel must have been truly devout followers. Tourists were rare in Misaki, after all. So much so that almost no one visited the area this time of year. The worshippers must have been locals.
それで別にどうってことないでしょ探せば顔見知りもいるんじゃない
So, why do you care? Might be someone there you know. Nago was as distant as ever. She clearly had not forgotten the fact that he vomited when he saw her, and a hint of spite leaked into her voice. And again,
いや、ちょうどいい機会だから、いろいろと聞きたくなって。
it's not. I just thought it might be a good chance to ask you some things.
少し話をしていいかな。
Can we talk for a bit? Since Aoko was always in a bad mood, Soujyuro did not pick up on anything out of the ordinary. She wanted to tell him to go drink some water because he looked ready to collapse, but he didn't seem aware of his own condition. And to be fair to him, Alice did say Aoko was in bad shape. Given how unaccustomed to blood Soujyuro was, it's no wonder he fainted.
ああ、そうか。
Of course.
話なんてまだ無理だな。すまない。出直してくる。
You're probably still too injured for this. I'll come back later. Soujyuro seemed to have misunderstood Aoko being deep in thought, as in not having enough stamina to speak. Naturally, this didn't sit well with Aoko.
待ちなさいよ。話だけなら別に構わないわ。やる気持て余してるし、暇つぶしがてらに相手してあげるわよ。
Hold it right then. You came to talk, I can talk just fine. I'm cooped up here so I can use the distraction.
ま、退屈しのぎにしてはちょっとグレード下がるけど、この際贅沢言ってられないし。
Okay, you're not the best distraction. But beggars can't be choosers. Soujyuro sensed this was going to be rough, but took a seat on the chair next to the bed.
何が聞きたいの？
So, what did you want to ask me? Aoko spoke energetically in an attempt to distract from her weakened appearance. Naturally, she knew she was fooling no one.
やっぱり青崎は強いな。安心した。
You really are strong, Hazaki. I'm relieved to see that you're okay. Soujyuro said, nodding in admiration. Aoko shot him an impressed look in response to the unwanted praise.
あんたってほんと間が悪いわ。
Honestly, you have the worst timing.
いいわよ、別に。
Nothing. Forget it.
私の夢の話だから、そっちが気に病むことは。
It's something from a dream. It's nothing to do with you. She glowered, remembering. Come to think of it, almost everyone in her dream was here in the church, turning her dour expression into an irritated one.
やめやめ、こんなつまんない話。聞きたいことがあるなら手っ取り早く済ませちゃってよ、宗十郎。
Enough about that. You said you had questions, so out with them.
よかった。じゃあ、まず今の状況を聞かせてくれないか。
Alright. Can you tell me what's going on?
瞳子さんの話じゃ、俺も無関係じゃないそうだし。
I mean, with Toko. Now that I'm involved in all. Soujyuro spoke calmly, making Aoko wonder if he really understood the gravity of the situation. He was Togo's enemy now. He was defenseless and needed protection. Neither Aoko nor Alice could help him, and the church could withdraw their sanctuary at any moment. He had picked a side, and that turned him from an innocent bystander to a target. The answer he sought was as simple as that. He knew the facts. He was not a mage, and therefore powerless.
まあ、それでもアリスは助けられたわけだし。
I guess you did help Alice. Aoko did owe him for that. To save things, she decided to at least give him the whole story up until now.
よし、今までの経緯も含めて軽く説明してみましょうか。
Okay, I'll walk you quickly through everything.
私も何か得るものがあるかもしれないし。
You know, maybe I'll even get something out of it. Aoko composed herself before beginning her explanation. The battle began at the end of November. A lot had happened since then, including meeting Soujyuro.
事の起こりは1ヶ月前、
It all started a month ago.
三崎市に貼られた結界の端っこが何者かに消されたのが発端だった。
Yawning up a storm. Just because it's late. When the edge of the bounded field around Misaki City was taken down,
私が跡継ぎになってから5度目の三崎市を狙う敵の登場ってわけ。
the fifth time since I became successor, Misaki City was officially under attack.
今回の敵は私たちとは直接戦わず、まず土地を奪うところから始めたわ。
This time, instead of attacking us directly, the enemy started taking the land.
今までのやつは私たちを半人前と舐めていたから、大抵は真正面から仕掛けてきて、勝手にアリスの猟犬の餌食になったんだけど、まあ、それはどうでもいいとして。
Everyone that had come before her had been a bunch of amateurs, all full of themselves, attacking us head on. They all ended up as kibble for Alice's watchdog.
町の結界には2種類あって、侵入者を見つけるものと、土地の力を有効利用するものがあるの。
Anyway, 2 times the bounded fields surround this area. One detects intruders, one siphons energy from the land.
敵が壊したのは土地の結界の方で、これが全部壊されると、私やアリスは土地の所有権を失ってしまう。
The enemies attack the latter. If the enemy field is destroyed, entire field is destroyed, then Alice and I effectively lose our ownership of this land.
土地のないはぐれ魔術師と同じになっちゃうのよ。
And without land, we become no different from rogue mages.
もちろん、そうならないように侵入者をあぶり出すための結界があるんだけど、こっちには何の反応もなかった。
Of course, we had another field set up to detect intruders, but it didn't do what it was supposed to.
当然よね。
And now we know why.
今回の敵は私の姉貴、青崎東子その人だったんだか
The enemy was my sister, Toko Aozaki.
ら。青崎の結界は同族である姉貴を敵とみなさなかった。
Aozaki bounded fields aren't going to recognize a fellow Aozaki as a threat.
あるいは姉貴は結界の抜け道、構造の資格をついたのかもしれない。
Alternatively, she made it to know that about a blind slot and slipped in that way.
もともとうちの後継者はあの人だし、それぐらいの知識はあったでしょう。
As the original successor, it's only natural she'd have that knowledge to begin with.
そうして姉貴は私たちに見つかることなく、好き勝手に結界の視点を壊し始めた。
So, since she was invisible to us, she had free reign to break bounded field sigils.
時間をかけてゆっくり壊していったのは、外からやってきた部外者を演じていたからでしょうね。
She deliberately attacked them slowly, one by one, to make us think she was an outsider.
さすがに連続して壊されれば、こっちも身内の犯行だと疑うし。うち、親戚である浅木家とは仲悪いままだしさ。
If she'd broken them all at once, I'd suspect one of my relatives, such as someone from the Asagis.
姉貴の芝居に騙された私たちが間抜けなんだけど、セオリーとして結界崩しは長丁場になるものなの。
Asagi, huh? While we were stupid to fall for her little game, it's also possible to look. It took her a long time to destroy the field.
管理地の結界は強固に作られているからね。普通は半年単位での攻防になる。
Her fields are made of strong stuff, and they typically last for 6 months.
攻める側はまず結界を形取る視点が何個あるか、それがどの5大要素でくくられているか、退去の正しい順序はどれか、それらを地道に解き明かしていく。
The enemy would need to figure out how many sigils supported the field, what elements comprised them, and the correct order to take them down.
もちろん管理地の魔術師たちの目を盗みながら。
All the while making sure the mage they belonged to didn't notice.
対して守る側は侵入者がいることに気づくから、悪さをされる前に敵の拠点を見つけ出して外敵を排除する。
If we did notice, we'd locate the intruder's base and eliminate them before any damage could be done.
こんな感じで結界崩しは長期戦、あるいは前哨戦になるものなの。
So bounded fields are either broken during a drawn-out battle or preemptively before it even starts.
大抵は攻める側が視点を壊すぞとアピールして、土地の持ち主を翻弄、疲弊させてから魔術師同士の直接対決で決着がつくわ。
Usually the enemy threatens to break the sigils to lure the landowner out. I think things are settled. Then things are settled there and then with a duel between mages.
なんで結界を全部壊す必要はないのよ。
Doing that eliminates the need to completely destroy a
管
field.
理地の持ち主を始末した方が早いし、その後は術式さえ解読しちゃえば土地を結界ごと横取りできる。
It's much faster to take out the landowner, and, as long as they can decipher the formula, seize the fields and land
わざ
afterward.
わざ壊して作り直すより、昔からある結界の方が土地に馴染んでいて強力だしで一石二鳥でしょ。
If you don't destroy the fields, you don't have to remake them. Besides, ones that have been in the land for years are stronger. That was how Aoko and Alice were duped. They never thought the enemy would waste the time and effort needed to break all the sigils.
だから私とアリスはとりあえず受けに回った。
That's why Alice and I went on the defensive.
視点を探すために街を調査している敵を待ち伏せて、これを片っ端から倒そうって。
We figured we could surprise the enemy while they search for the sigils, take them out one by one.
でもそのうちの一つがケチのつき始めだった。
But that's when things started to go south.
三崎町の公園で山張って待ち受けていた時、どうでもいい第三者が覗き見してやがったのよ。
When a certain busybody saw something he shouldn't have at the local park. Indeed. It was the ultimate taboo in the world of magecraft. The existence of mages must never be revealed to outsiders.
その後のことはわかるでしょ。
You know the rest, right?
私は敵との小競り合いをアリスに任せて、それより重要な目撃者狩りに専念せざるを得なくなった。
Shit, man. I had no choice but to leave our battle with the enemy to Alice and devote my time to searching for the eyewitness.
言っとくけど、これはあんたのことだからね。そこで我関せずみたいな顔しないこと。
And in case you haven't realized, I'm talking about you, so don't give me a sloppy look like you're surprised. Sloppy. No sooner had Aoko said that, Soujyuro gave her that exact look. Clearly he'd been listening, but not necessarily understanding.
ま、いいけどね。宗十郎がそんなだから秘密は漏れなかったんだし。
Well, it's water under the bridge. Actually, thanks to your cluelessness, our secret's still safe.
で、あんたっていう目撃者を消そうとした私の単独行動は、敵にしても都合のいいものだった。
Anyway, the fact that I went looking for you worked in the enemy's favor.
強敵であるアリスがいないんだから、敵はこれを機会に私を始末しようと、特注品の人形を差し向けた。
Alice was their biggest threat. That's when she said her special puppet.
と思っていたけど、あれはただの嫌がらせね、間違いなく。
Or so I thought at the time. Turns out she only sent it to mess with me.
そうでなきゃ、私そっくりの人形なんて派遣するかっての。
Otherwise, why use a puppet that looked just like me? Soujyuro nodded, thinking back to the Aoko replica.
あれのことは忘れてちょうだい。
Remember, I'd prefer it if you forgot about that incident altogether.
まあ、そこから先はあんたもうすうす知ってるでしょ。
After all that, I'm sure you can fill in the blanks.
私とアリスは敵との戦いに専念することになって、毎日のように捜査の手を空振って、決戦の夜を迎えて、今はこうしてる。
Alice and I turned our attention to fight the enemy, spending most nights tracking her fruitlessly, until the fight last night.
大体の経緯はこんなところよ。
That's the long and short of it. She stared down at her body as if recalling what had happened would help her accept her current state. Under the sheet, magical energy steadily flowed through her partially bandaged body.
青崎、これまでの君たちの話は分かった。
Okay, Aozaki, I think I'm all caught up. I don't really want to leave it in the middle of one, but I am, as you may have noticed, nodding off. So I think we're calling it here. But almost a full hour and a half is not bad. So while I wish it could go on for just a little bit longer, it's very quickly becoming apparent to me that that's not going to be happening. So unfortunate, but what are we gonna do? But with all that said, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, rest of your week. I hope you're all taking care of yourselves. I hope I remember to upload this on time, and I hope all work gets done in a nice and satisfying way. But, yeah, have a good one, guys. Bye.